I'm Brandon Isle with BYU-Idaho Radio, and joining me over Zoom, I have Tanner Christensen and Ben Kjar. They are in a new film. It's called Standout, and this is the Ben Kjar story. This is so exciting. Tanner is the director, and Ben, of course, is in the movie. Thanks for joining me, guys.
We appreciate you, man.
We're so excited to be here. Yeah.
So let's get some background on this movie. Ben, you have Crouzon Syndrome. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, it's pronounced Crouzon Syndrome, and what it is the facial difference. So when I was born, docs would tell my parents that I would have to have multiple surgeries. And the mid part of the face doesn't grow at the same speed, and there's other parts of the head just is going to be abnormal. And so during the growth stages, they would cut my head open from ear to ear, put a trach in my throat, wire my mouth shut, and hope and pray that the surgery would actually work. And then after that, if the physical part wasn't the hardest thing, the doctors would say, oh, by the way, the trauma, the emotional trauma will be the thing that will be the most difficult to work with. So that was an interesting way to start a life.
Yeah. How many surgeries have you had?
You know what? Nowadays, with the new technologies, people are having more and more surgeries. Back when I had mine, I had 3 to 5 surgeries in one.
Wow.
For what they do now. And so I've had about 3, 4 major surgeries in the growth stages of life.
Yeah. And you talk about the emotional trauma. Of course, this affects the way you look and how people perceive you. What have you dealt with over the years with this syndrome?
Well, as in regards to like bullying and people looking at me funny, I've had a lot of different seasons in life of how I would react. Early on, it would be very much of a victim mindset. Why me? You know, mom, I need to take my face off if in order to fit in order to just be normal. And then to today, if you fast forward to today, it's totally different. My Crouzon syndrome isn't a curse, it's a gift. It's an opportunity to have empathy towards other people. It's an opportunity to prove who I am. It's an opportunity to be somebody. It's an opportunity to stand out.
Yeah, and that's the name of the film, Stand Out. The big message of that. You, of course, became a wrestler, and the film focuses a lot on your wrestling journey. And this is just so fun to see you succeed in this film, and we see home footage, and it's you doing the thing. How was that for you as a kid, finding your thing and then just working hard to make it really stand out?
Man, props to my parents. They had numerous nights where their pillowcases were just peppered with tears. And I would find that out later. Why? Because they would find every possible way to give me confidence. So, man, from talking like to clogging to what I thought was cruel and unusual punishment with a little singing group called Gingerbread Kids. You can only imagine what that was about. To wrestling and football and basketball and baseball and soccer, you name it, I did it. Why? To find me. I needed to find who I was, where I would shine. And I would encourage every parent out there, not just because their kid is different, as Crouzon syndrome or facial difference, every child nowadays gets to find their confidence. Now, if you don't walk out of this film having that be just a vital part of like, oh my gosh, Ben was able to rise up, go beyond, disobey average, and find confidence. That is such a thing today, to have grit, confidence, and tenacity. Wrestling became that thing. Why? Because I could control a certain thing. I couldn't control Crouzon syndrome, but I could control when my coach told me to do 20 push-ups that I would do more. And as I chose to do more, I controlled a lot more of my destiny than I was used to.
Yeah, and inspired so many people over the years while you were wrestling and now as an inspirational speaker.
Yeah, it's been incredible. You know what? I didn't want to share my story at the beginning. I didn't share my story till I was getting ready for the Olympics, and Olympic trials, and going for that in wrestling. I had mentors come to me and say, Ben, you need to fundraise a bunch of money to travel around and train, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you can't have a full-time job doing this. I'm like, this is my full-time job. They're like, well, then you got to fundraise money. So start telling your story and people will donate. I'm like, heck no. No way. I ain't doing that. But like begrudgingly like did it. And I remember doing it for the first time and I was just like, I'm an idiot. What am I doing? Putting myself out there. I was in a lunchroom in my junior high in Centerville, and this girl came up to me after, black hoodie, kind of like a gothic, dark makeup. And she peers up, and she was in the corner, like by herself. I never knew she was listening to me. She looked at me and she said, Ben, you spoke to me today. Thanks for seeing me. Bam. That was it. That was the thing that would take me on to huge stages around the world. And now that's what I do.
Yeah.
I have the coolest job in the world to inspire other humans.
Now, Tanner, let's bring you into the discussion. How did you first hear about Ben's story? And from hearing about it, how did you make the leap to deciding to do a movie about this?
Well, it was pretty easy to notice Ben in Centerville, Utah, and is where I grew up, and that's where Ben grew up. Everybody knew Ben in Centerville. Uh, he stood out not just because of his looks, but because of his personality. He was even back then as a young kid, he was gregarious and funny and just a magnet. People wanted to be around him. So the first time we ever had the idea for this film was probably about the time we were both in junior high, somewhere around then. And TC Christensen, who is my dad, who is also a filmmaker and a producer on this film, he we were at a junior jazz rec basketball game, and we saw Ben there, and that's the first time I remember hearing, TC was like, "Man, I think that Ben Kjar kid could be a movie. I think should keep an eye on him," and we did. It took 30 years, but we finally made it happen.
How did you know now was the time?
That the interesting thing is that TC actually approached Ben's dad, Scott Kjar, probably about, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, maybe all close to 20, asking about, hey, I'd like to do a film about Ben, and it didn't work out, and we are grateful that it didn't at that time, because Ben wasn't done, living his life. He hadn't accomplished the things that he has now, that makes this story even more incredible than it would have been back then. His story would have been great 20 years ago too, but it's even more so now. And I'm just feel so blessed that I get the opportunity to be the one to tell it.
Yeah. Now, this is your directorial debut, and you decided to do this as a documentary versus another format, maybe like based on a true story or something. Why the documentary style?
So, yeah, that's a good question. We a few reasons. We first of all thought that this would lend itself to a documentary well because of just the nature of like how many people have touched Ben's lives, and Ben has touched theirs. And so like to be able to hear other people's accounts of what Ben went through, as we got into interviewing and researching, it just became apparent that would be really powerful. And then the other thing that really pushed it over the edge was it turned out Ben's family had documented everything. Like they had taken a VHS video camera with them everywhere they went, apparently. I mean, I don't know who else did that in the 90s. My family certainly didn't, but they have more home movies than anybody in the USA from back then. I mean, it seriously was incredible, the amount of stuff they had, and it made it, so powerful to be able to see those moments that we're talking about in the film. Like, you see the actual moments, like, how incredible is that? And they were, and by the way, Scott and Stana were incredible photographers. Like, they did an amazing job. TC was jealous of them that they could do such a good job. But the one thing I want to emphasize too is that I think a lot of times when people hear documentary, they have an idea of what that means. That, that's probably something that's a little slow, maybe a little boring, maybe a bunch of facts spit at you. That is not the case with this film. We have made an absolutely, like, as entertaining as possible movie that we could get out of this story. It is a wild ride. It is a roller coaster with twists and turns and ups and downs that you just aren't expecting. I think it's more entertaining than most narrative films out there today, I hope.
Yeah. Well, the storytelling is just so great. You have friends of Ben's, you have fellow wrestlers, you have family members, and you just get this story organically through the whole movie, and it's just a pleasure to watch. And those whole movies, they are perfect. I mean, you see Ben light up on the podium and see him struggle through a wrestling match, and you see all these things. But you couldn't just rely on the home videos. You also did some reenactments, and you brought in a little boy from Idaho, Colton Fielding. Can you tell me how you guys found him and Ben? What was that like, meeting him and working with him on this film?
Well, I tell you what, it would have been. I mean, it would have been fantastic if he was from Idaho, but
he is from Idaho. Well, they're
his grandparents,
the Wilcox, the
Wilcox
family's from Idaho. So yeah, and she's, by the way, his grandma is a huge fan of ours up there, trying to get Colton's name out there. He's gonna be the next Tom Cruise. Watch out, Ben thought this was gonna make him a star. No, man, Colton is gonna, with Colton's grandma behind him, is going to get his name out there bigger than anybody from this movie.
So yeah, Colton's not from Idaho, but his family's from Idaho.
Yeah, and his family's incredible. Like, we just spent, I think there's a place up there called Island Park, right?
Yep.
We were just up there for Thanksgiving, and we were with the family and the grandparents, and you're right, he is going to be the next Tom Cruise. Colton does all his own stunts. He's fantastic, man. But I tell you what, it was absolutely incredible. Like, God was pulling for us. It was unreal. Like, how in the world do you travel around the world looking for this human that could play this part of someone who's different, a facial difference? Like, the kid in Wonder, I've met him, the guy who plays Augie. He's a normal kid. He doesn't have a facial difference. The amount of hours he went through doing all the makeup. I've spoke on the same stage with him. And then to find someone like Colton. Well, let me tell you how it happened. We had looked for months and months and months through 501c3 organizations and nonprofits and all this stuff. And it just didn't fit. Meaning, yes, they had facial differences, but it didn't fit. We're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to do AI? No, can't do that. A few, literally within weeks before we're about to film and hit our timeline, the Fieldings reach out to me on social media. They're like, Ben, we've been following you for a long time. Come over for dinner. I show up at dinner. They live 20 minutes away from me. I walk in and I see Jordan and Annalie Fielding, and there I see Colton. And nervously, I tell them and ask them if they'd be open for this. And in that moment, I hear emotional response. This makes sense. Colton had been trying to have surgeries for quite a while that just, for some reason or another, couldn't be successful. And then all of a sudden this comes about. We film it. He kills it. He does such a great job. Jordan and Annalie and the other kids are incredible. Like so good. Right after we get done filming, the surgery lines up and he successfully has it. So Colton looks different now. He doesn't look like the same Colton in the movie, but it had to be played that way. He had to have not have the surgery for the film to be the way it was filmed. And so God is so good. This is way bigger than us. There are kids and adults. We've had 5-year-olds from 95-year-old people rolling in on wheelchairs that all are leaving just changed because of the filmings, because of their impact, and because this is way bigger than all of us.
Yeah. I think my favorite part with Colton is when you talk about the swagger you gained as you started winning these wrestling matches, and he's just walking down the school hallway and he's got it. That swagger is there.
He
So
is.
fun.
And you know what? That's the prayer. That's the prayer and the hope is that after this all comes about, like, and the dust kind of settles in the next coming months or however long it will take, that at the end of the day, this film gave someone like Colton and Colton himself and the filming family themselves just a little more purpose, a little more pep in their step to stand out. And if we can do that, man, we've done our job. And I tell you what, we're going to be posting here soon. Colton and family are like in person visiting so many screenings. And I am so excited for him to be such a standout superstar because they all deserve it. They're so well deserving of every little bit of attention that comes their way.
Now, this documentary, of course, touches on several aspects of your life, and you are. How are you reacting to seeing this play out on screen? The difficult parts. I think, in particular, your early relationship with your mother-in-law. That's difficult to listen to, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is, and but it's the full story. Once you see the full film and you see how everything comes about, how beautiful that is, right? And it just so happens that, you know what, my wife, and we don't tell this on the film for some obvious reasons to take this worldwide, but my wife had a mission call. You know, she had a mission call to go, and that was right before she would go on a mission. And so there's a lot of justification behind how she responded. And at the end of the day, though, we've had responses from so many people who don't understand the religious context and they're not LDS or they're not of our faith, but they understand not being accepted. Whether it's how they look, whether it's their demographic of how they're raised financially, or maybe skin color, or whatever it is, maybe an age gap. You never know what could happen nowadays. But we've had people come out and it's been a large impact, man. And my in-laws, the Grants, Daryl and Valena, are fantastic humans. They're great people, and we are so honored that they would be a part of this film and tell such a raw story.
Yeah. Tanner, in deciding how to tell this story, with your background working with your dad, T.C. Christensen, who's done so many faith-based films, this was a deliberate choice to not kind of go in that direction. How did you decide to do that?
Just as we got into the story, there were like really all of the key moments, everything that happened, even though certainly God plays a part in it, faith plays a part in it, like that is throughout the film, and I hope is not obviously something we're hiding from at all, but it was just obvious to me working on it that like this is a story that could have happened to someone of any faith. It could have happened to a Baptist, an evangelical, a Muslim, anybody really. And because of that, it was like, why limit us and our appeal outside, of if we just limit it to, this is only an LDS specific story. I think we limit the impact unnecessarily. So we thought, you know what, I think we can tell this story in a way that is true to the faith and the belief in God and the impact that had on Ben and the Kjars and his life. But without having to get into the, specifics where we're alienating anyone. This is a story about, people embracing their differences and being able to come together and have empathy for one another. We didn't want to do something that made people feel like they could reject it right off without giving it a chance. And that sadly happens a lot with LDS media.
It's comes out on Friday, on the 23rd, and I'm sure you've had some screenings already. What kind of response are you getting from people who are seeing this documentary?
Man, I had a therapist come to me just a few nights ago. She's a clinical therapist. She gets paid for this job and what she does. And she comes up to me in tears. She's like, Ben, every single thing that I saw in this film is stuff I teach to all my clients. There's another lady who showed up and she said, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've seen on TV or on a big screen at all. She says, Hugh Jackman better watch out. I'm like, oh, frig, what are you talking about? And she says, one of my favorite films is The Greatest Showman. And equally, that's one of my I love that film. She said, this has impacted me even on a deeper level than that because of the lessons that are taught. It's so raw. It's so real. And I'll end my portion with this. When Tanner and TC approached me, I had asked, so what's your depiction? Because I had other people approach me to do a documentary or some type of film before, but it just never felt right. I said, what's your thought about how we portray this? They said, imagine the movie Wonder. The boy with the facial difference, Owen Wilson, Julie Roberts in that film. Imagine that boy goes on to be the Rocky Balboa, but it's a real story. And so that's what it's depicted. There's a lot of grit. There's a hero's journey. There's a love story behind it. And there's also a just coming into my own, understanding what that is, if that's not hard enough in and of itself. And then the entire physical battle that I would go through as well. So it's been fun to hear it.
Yeah, thank you. Tanner, what kind of things are you hearing?
Well, I'll tell you what we heard. One of the best things that I heard that came from another Idaho boy, and that is from our other producer, not TC Christensen, but Jared Hess. So Jared, we showed him a very early cut of the film, and he was not attached at all. I was just showing him, asking for feedback as he's a friend and has been a great mentor to me over the years. And so and he's done such amazing things, Napoleon Dynamite and, up to the Minecraft movie just this last summer and last year. And, so I gave him the film just hoping that maybe he'd like it a little bit. Maybe he'd have some advice about, what I could do to make it better. And he loved it so much that he jumped on board. He was like, I want to help you get it out there. And I don't know that there's a better compliment that I'll ever get than that, to have a guy of that caliber be willing to put his name on something like this meant the world to me.
Yeah. Well, it's so exciting to have this in theaters, and it's showing in Idaho Falls, Rexburg, Blackfoot so far, and you can get your theater, your local theater, on board. Is that right?
Yeah, you know what? We just opened in Boise as well. We're in Boise and Caldwell. And I think we even up in Coeur d'Alene. We're almost everywhere in Idaho at this point. So head to your theaters, man. We're there. We should be there. Yeah, come see us.
Now, what do you guys hope that people remember from this film as they walk out of the theater?
For me, I would say a vigor to live at a totally different level. Every single person in our life at some point or another, we choose to step into who we were born to be. And if we die in this life and never really achieved the version of why we were created, then that was a lost life. What people are coming out saying, I'll give you an example. There's a 65-year-old gentleman the other day, I've never met him, and he walks out of the theater at the very end. It wasn't even over. The credits were still rolling. And by the way, when you watch it, as you've seen it, it's not over yet. And I want you to know that he looked at me. I was getting ready to take the mic and take a Q&A at the end, and he grabs my shoulders and he's just bawling. And he said, "Ben, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you." And if that's felt in a movie, if the life-changing experiences are felt, and then we're hearing about them weeks and months later, man, we did our job.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt, yeah, I'll take maybe a more pragmatic filmmaker approach to that question, which is when people leave the theater, I hope that they are so excited about it that they can't wait to tell their neighbor about it and get them to go to it. I do think there are so many amazing lessons you can learn from Ben, from his life, and that will happen in the film. But I also don't want people to think that this is some kind of a Sunday school lesson film. It is not. This is entertaining. It is. It's such a good time, and I think we really hope that the word of mouth, is strong with this. That people are going to enjoy it and want to come see it again. Want to bring their families.
Yeah, and once it's done with its theatrical run, I understand Angel Studios is attached and will help stream this.
Correct. Yeah, we'll have announcements on when that will be and everything. Later in the year. That's all. Not set up as far as dates and everything, but Angel is on board. They're assisting us with the theatrical. Although we're just a little independent outfit putting it in theaters ourselves. So. Yeah.
Well, excellent. In theaters now, you can find out more at standoutfilm.com. Tanner, Ben, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Brandon. It's always a pleasure. It's so fun to be back here with you.
Thanks for supporting us, Brandon. We appreciate it, brother.